Number 2 here for you guys, the power of priming. A wonderful book you should all check out. It's called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. He talks about how our subconscious actually helps shape our decisions without us even realizing it. You know, it's kind of that feeling, that gut feeling we get sometimes, our instincts. It's sort of that irrational part of our brain that we can't really understand or explain. It has a tremendous impact on our decision making. And there's a technique he talks about in that book called priming, and talks about the impact of how priming can really affect your mood and your mindset. And in the book I mentioned earlier, the one that we're giving away if you guys share this broadcast, Influence, Robert Cialdini gives an example of this that I love. So let's say, as an example, you and I are at an interview, and let's say you're interviewing me. And let's say it's a competitive job, and let's say in this particular case you're interviewing lots of different people for this position. Now, normally, you're in a position of power. Normally, when we sit down and have that conversation, you're going to tell me, well, what about your experience, Jimmy? What about your college? Jimmy, I see you dropped out of college after going to 1 year, and it appears you didn't drop out of Harvard, you dropped out of the University of New Hampshire. Not really a big check mark in your favor. Like, why should I hire you when there's other candidates who have got their, PhDs or MBAs at these prestigious universities? Like, that's how the dynamic of an interview typically works, okay? And that's the dynamic, typically, of the way in which you interact with leads. Think about that for a second. They've got this brick wall up. They've got something you want, especially if you're a seller. Sellers they can choose anybody they want to hire them to list their property, right? Some people will do it for nothing, 1%. Some people will do it for 6%. Some websites offer to do it for them. They perceive that they're in a position of power. And as a result, whether it's true or not true, the questioning and the objections you're going to handle put you on your back foot. So the power of priming allows you to actually get the consumer in the right mindset to allow you to sort of have a meaningful conversation with them. So in the example of the interview, if you were interviewing me, the first question I would ask you, whether it's the beginning of the interview or at the end where they always ask you, hey, do you have any questions for me? And like you're sitting in your seat sort of wondering, like, what the hell am I supposed to say to this person? Like they just covered everything for the last hour. Well, this is what you could say. And this is what Robert Cialdini recommends. He says, what was it about my resume that attracted you to me? And now you see how that just flipped. Now they're saying, well, in fact, I like the fact that you had relevant work experience. I like the fact that you worked at your previous job for 6 years before you joined this company. That type of loyalty shows that you're committed to something long term. I like the fact that you didn't do the exact same thing every other person does when they come in here, which is, just tell me all about themselves. You gave me more of it. Like, you can see how that kind of changes the entire dynamic, but it primes the other person to think positively about the conversation they're having, which allows you the window to come in and have a meaningful conversation that could move that conversation forward. That's really the goal of any type of lead qualification process, is to move the conversation forward. When you have a relationship with someone that knows, likes, and trusts you, you don't have to worry about qualification. You have a deep, meaningful connection with them. But consumers right now have this brick wall that you've got to overcome. So the example that you might use in real estate would be, if you're going to call a lead, and this is a way to qualify a lead via a phone call. If you're going to call a lead, or maybe even email a lead about a property that just hit the market, you might say, hey, I saw you reach out about this listing on Zillow that you inquired about. What was it about this property that really stood out to you? Was it the photos? Did you like the fact that it had a backyard? Did you like the fact that it has, a pool? That's one of the only properties in the area that has a pool. Like, what was it about that property that actually got you to say, you know what, I want to fill this form out and I want to talk to somebody about it? Now just stop right there for a second. Because the alternative that people ask, or the alternative is, how much is the property, on the market for? Is it still available? Do I need to talk to this person? Like, they're not really interested in having a conversation with you. But now all of a sudden, if you can prime them with a question that gets them to tell you more about their needs and their wants and their desires, you could put yourself in a position where you can become the trusted advisor and the expert to educate them. So you've got to understand that whereas you might have a wealth of knowledge, people have to be in a position to receive that knowledge. And that's where priming can really help you generate higher quality leads and have much more meaningful conversations.